out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Jeremy Lambert, that is Stephen Jensen, and shout out as always to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. We got plenty to talk about. We were off last week. I had something come up with my 300 kids, so I apologize for that. Jensen, I appreciate your understanding on that, but we're back this week. And Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just got off another day at work. Nothing crazy going on over here, but yeah, had a week off last week, so a lot to talk about on today's show. One quick thing, non-wrestling related, because I think I saw you and SP3, you didn't get to catch in the weeds, but I think you and SP3 talked about it. I just want your quick opinion on the NBA, their issue right now, because I know it's like that's one of the biggest things in sports right now going on is like teams losing on purpose, like the whole idea of like should they change the way the draft is done, this or that? Like how do you feel about what's going on in the NBA right now with like tanking?
I think tanking's been part of every sport like forever. I mean, tanking's been part of the NBA forever. Guys sit down, they don't play in games and everything. I think it's a discussion because of how the Utah Jazz did it. And what they did was they sat their best players in the fourth quarter of a close game. And so that's a pretty blatant, like, oh, you are not trying to win this game. And when you do that, you open up more of a discussion to things. If they had just sat their players before the game and listed like, oh, they got an injury, they're not going to play, people would be like, all right, sure. Like, you can't disprove that there was any type of injury, because all these teams do that. All these teams do. Like, I think Trae Young could have probably played a month ago. You know, he got traded to the Wizards, and he probably could have played by now. But who knows when he's going to play, because they're trying to tank. And what's the point of playing Trae Young when they want to get a better odds at a better draft pick? But I can't prove that he could have played, you know. According to them, he can't. Okay, you got to take their word for it. But you can very tangibly prove that, hey, you sat down your best players in the fourth quarter. What are you thinking with this? Like, that's pretty hard evidence that you were not trying to win these games.
I also just realized you tweeted about that a half hour ago. I had no idea. I looked at your Twitter just now because I saw your NBA related tweet about Rousey and Carano, which we'll talk about in a moment. But okay, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate because from like a fan perspective, because I'm really not very much into the NBA, but when I try to watch it, it's already one of those things where like it's hard for me to get into it. Especially if I know the teams aren't trying, especially difficult for me to want to put like money on it if I think that teams aren't going to try, you take the unders on teams and stuff, or whatever on players, you guys know what I mean, but just one of those things where like the issue to me about the NBA, by the way, because I even with college basketball, I've been trying to get more into it recently because it's like a little bit of a lull right now with like, and NFL's over, football's over in general. MLB hasn't started back up yet. So I'm like, all right, trying to get into basketball right now, watch the all-star stuff and whatnot. But so much of the game, you're probably just used to it because you watch it so often. But to me, it's like so much of the game, I just feel like the guys are just running full speed into the paint. And it's like either a foul or it isn't. They're just like constantly stopping the game, constantly having to shoot free throws, especially towards the end of a game where it's like it takes forever, just foul, free throw, and it just gets like really boring sitting there to me, like when that keeps happening over and over. I just wish there was more, just like passing the ball around, more action. I know they shoot a lot of threes now and stuff, which is, more than it used to be, but just from the outside looking in, it's just one of those things between me already kind of frustrated with kind of the pace of the game on top of knowing that so many of these teams are tanking on purpose. It's just kind of a lame look for basketball, it just kind of feels like. So
the games, especially at the end, take way too long. And that's the final like 5 minutes of a game takes about a half hour of real time, which I can understand a casual fan frustration of that, because the final 5 minutes is like you want to get invested in that and you want to see how it's going to play out. But if it takes forever to play out, it's like I don't care anymore. So I completely understand that, because I get frustrated with that, and I watch every game involving my team at the very least, and then I'll watch a lot of games that don't involve my team. I'm like I can't watch this for too long with how the final 5 minutes, how long all of that takes. As far as just guys running in the paint, getting fouls, I mean, there's teams that certainly do that. I know my team is very much accused of doing that. And then there's other teams that don't, and there's other teams that play a different style. I think every team kind of has their own style. I do think that narratives drive a lot, and so fans just get caught up on that when it comes to the narratives. And what I mean by that is, like, again, my team is very much accused of, oh, Shea is a flopper and all he does is fall down and get to the line, and he's shooting a free throw every single time. I was like, well, he also drives the ball the most, and he doesn't shoot as many free throws as even like a Luka Doncic type guy. And then you watch the Thunder play and you realize, like, yeah, he probably does get fouled on all of these plays. So a lot of that's like narrative driven, where if you actually like sit down and watch a full game, you'll realize there's a lot of aesthetically pleasing stuff to the game.
I get that. I just think I have like a fundamental issue with the game itself, and that's a me problem, not really necessarily a basketball problem. I just feel like the closer you get to the hoop, like, you should be allowed to make some sort of contact or some sort of additional it's just, I feel like a lot of the time the ball just gets too close to the hoop, and then like the bigger player just gets hacked, or just like, it's just kind of weird that you can't make any contact when you get that close, when these guys are so athletic and so they can dunk, and it's so easy to score when you get that close without somebody like. That's why they foul. So like you don't score when you get close. It's kind of feel like you should be able to. I'm not talking about like slam ball where you can just like body check everybody, but like I know like back in the day, it was more physical. Like
Well, again, if you listen to the narratives, my team, all they do is play like 90s basketball, and we get away with every foul in the book. So maybe you would like the Thunder, because they just foul everybody according to everyone else, and they're allowed to get away with it.
Well, there you go. Well, that's all my thoughts on basketball. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because we usually talk a little bit of traditional sports, and like I said, MLB hasn't started back up. The World Baseball Classic is happening pretty soon, though. I am getting pretty excited for that. That should be fun. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about a whole lot about professional wrestling, though. So
people do want to know. People are asking me on In the Weeds, so I have to ask you now. Are you betting on the Olympics?
They were asking if I was betting on the Olympics.
Yeah.
I don't. Let me see if I have. I don't think I might have on some just random stuff. I have. I don't think I've won anything on the Olympics, to put it that way, because I would have probably kept doing whatever. Probably Olympic hockey, probably something on there.
Yeah.
Maybe something random. But I haven't been. I guess that's the one thing I've saying. There's like this lull in all these sports, but I mean there are the Olympics going on, to be fair. Just those are mostly sports I don't know really anything about. But to be fair, I don't know anything about like table tennis, and I throw in on that.
You're
stuff.
betting
So,
on
like,
pit crew time changes.
Yeah, that was one of the most degenerate like props that I've ever seen on there. I rarely ever see that one pop up. I can't think of anything that's been like just more like egregious than that.
Yeah, that
like
one.
handball, which I don't even, but that's a real sport at least. It's a big worldwide sport, throwing on handball and stuff. I like the sports that happen overnight where I just throw my bed in and go to sleep and then hope I wake up in the morning with extra money. It's my favorite.
All right. Well, there you go, everybody. Yeah, people, because we've been talking Olympics on In the Weeds. I'm a big curling fan, and curling is on a lot of times when like the show is on. Like literally today, I had curling on here, and I was just locked in on the curling. And people were wondering if you were betting on the Olympics. I said probably. I assume he is.
I should have done. I don't know how much longer the Olympics is going.
There's only you got 2 days. Well, you got kind of 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, they end on Sunday, and the hockey gold medal game is on Sunday.
See, I like stuff that I can do during the day, like while I'm working. So, like the Olympics would have been perfect. If I was paying more attention to when stuff was. I know they also air stuff out of order, though, don't they? Like they'll actually show us stuff that happens.
Yeah, if you're watching like the primetime feed on NBC, but if you have like Peacock, you can watch everything as it happens
of course.
Live.
At this point, I'm sure, of course you can. I mean, that makes sense. I was the other day. Here's a good example. I threw a little something on golf the other day, and like when you go onto the, I can't remember if it was YouTube TV or the ESPN app, but I think it was the ESPN app. You could literally pull up like 4 screens at one time of different holes, just like constantly like alternating each screen, but all different holes at different times, which is just like, that's for people like me, but that's also one of the main reasons that I am looking forward to baseball coming back, because of the day games. Like they don't always play during the day, but a lot of the days throughout the week, there's, I think like Wednesdays especially, they play like mostly day games and stuff. So that's a lot of fun while I'm working. So
yeah, Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Big baseball guy here again.
Yeah, Wednesdays and Thursdays. It seems to be the day games for baseball. That's why I like baseball too. That's why I like the Olympics. Honestly, that was one thing. Like I don't miss the pandemic for sure, but I do miss the fact that like hockey and basketball were on at like 2:00 and everything. It's like this rules. I can just put on sports in the middle of the afternoon. So I do miss that aspect. But that's what I love about the Olympics. That's what I love about baseball too, is the day games. All right, are you frozen? Am I frozen? I feel like this is Jensen for once and not me.
I think I was frozen for a second. Okay. I think we both might have been frozen for a second. Can you hear me now?
I didn't get the. I can hear you, but I still think you're frozen. It's just one. Okay. Oh, now you're making a face. Are you okay?
Yeah, I made like a weird face with my tongue. I was like, I like froze I was frozen, I think.
Yeah, you were. Okay, it was not me for once. Usually it's me.
Oh, I was frozen, says Scott. Okay, so it's my. What's going on with my computer?
Yeah, your computer's acting up.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now? Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
You're
telling me I was frozen.
That's all. You are freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, your audio seems okay, but you are freezing. Like you're frozen right now.
You're also freezing on my computer.
Yeah, because your computer is freezing.
Yeah. See, I'm used to you being frozen one, so I can't tell.
I
You're also freezing on my computer, so I can't tell who's frozen at what time. Apparently, I keep freezing, but you're freezing on my.
Yeah, you were freezing. All right, we're gonna try to navigate this, folks. Let's get into wrestling.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
The Elimination Chamber is starting to fill out, and on the men's side, the winner will challenge Drew McIntyre for the undisputed WWE Championship, we have Javon Evans, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton so far. Who do you think ends up walking out of this, and why is it Cody Rhodes?
Am I frozen still, or can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is so weird because my computer keeps like glitching on me. So like I can't tell if I'm good or not. But of course I'm choosing Cody Rhodes.
Can you not hear me?
I can, but it was lagging. I'm finally snapping back to where it's like finally in real time. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and let's talk some wrestling. Okay, let's see if this works now. I'm choosing Cody Rhodes. And I know you said to, I don't know if we should really reverse this, and you should try to convince me why it isn't going to be Cody, because all signs kind of point towards it's probably Cody.
I'll convince you that it's not going to be Cody. Nobody wants to see Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the 300th time in the main event of WrestleMania. That's why it shouldn't be Cody.
I want to see it.
You are the one.
I am the one. I'm the one.
Nobody wants to see this match. This is the coldest match that they could book. We literally just saw this a month ago in a 3 stages of hell. It's insanely cold. It's so cold that the fans are turning against Cody in this whole thing. I do like that shirt. They're turning against Cody. They're turning against Cody in this whole feud.
Well, I still think that there's a possibility. Am I frozen again? Yeah, is it really me again this time, or is it Jeremy this time?
That one.
Okay. That one was you. This is the most cursed broadcast. Sorry, y'all. So I still don't think it's going to be a straight up one-on-one match. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, but I'm still not convinced for the reason you just said. I think most of the fan base would agree with what you're saying. Like, most people don't want to see a one-on-one. And the main reason being that they recently had a 3 stages of hell match, regardless of McIntyre. I get it. McIntyre was technically going to win anyways before Fatu got involved, but like the story there is Fatu did get involved, and so he's obviously a big part of this match also, or this feud, rather. So so obviously I'm incredibly biased. Everyone knows that. I like Drew McIntyre a lot. Like, Drew McIntyre is one of my top guys. I was thinking about it earlier today. If I had to give you my 5 favorite people in the entire WWE right now, and I know I always say Drew McIntyre is in there, it's probably Cody, obviously, CM Punk, believe it or not. I do really like what he's doing on the show, and I like him as the champion. And I especially like Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. That's kind of like the CM Punk triangle there. And then number 5 is, hate all you want, Logan Paul. Like, I love what Logan's doing. I think he's done great, and he's going to keep getting better. So those are my dudes. So you give me 2 of those 5 guys, Cody and Drew, like, I'm going to want to see that, but I also understand that, you'd have to up the stakes somehow bigger than a 3 stages of hell match, which I don't think they really are going to do or need to do. And like, Jacob Fatu was also just too heavily involved, I think, to not be involved at all. And then I still feel like, unless there's been, you're going to have to fill me in on this. Has there been like a big drop off Sami Zayn since he lost his title match, or is he like still potentially in that mix at all for the title?
He didn't win at Royal Rumble, and then he got pinned on Friday in the triple threat match. So I don't feel like there's too much of a groundswell for Sammy to be here. I mean, Drew tried to help him win that triple threat match, and he still lost. So it feels like he's a little bit out of the picture. Fatu is definitely still in the picture, and I think he will get added to the chamber in some way. I hope he gets added if it's going to be Cody and Drew. I hope Jacob Fatu gets added to that, and it's a triple threat match, because again, I have no interest in another Cody and Drew match. At least if Jacob's in it, all right, you're doing something different. But I got nothing with Cody and Drew.
Yeah. I totally get that, and I also think it'd be really strange for Jacob not to be involved this deep in. So Cyclops better than Wolverine. Yeah, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. It says, I had no idea Jensen was a big Cody fan. News to me. Thank you. I would if you weren't in here so often, I would be like, welcome to the show. Thank you for watching for your first time. But I know that you are that you're kidding around. But thank you very much for the super chat, and good to see you as always. Good to see everyone in the chat, by the way, keeping up with it. All my stuff was like super frozen for a minute, but I'm seeing the chat finally here. It's my laptop is the issue, by the way. My mouse like scroller thing isn't even working correctly right now. Everything's just like lagging, so it's technical issues on my end. But I mean, so let's rewind this a little bit. So let's say we're both basically saying it's foregone conclusion Cody's going to win. Is there any scenario that they go a different route and it's Drew versus somebody else? Because there is a possibility, I think, that maybe they go Cody versus Randy Orton, for instance, instead of WrestleMania, and like Cody isn't in the title match. Maybe they go a different route for Drew. Maybe it is Fatu versus Drew. Maybe Fatu does win the Chamber. Who knows?
The problem is Drew doesn't feel like a hot champion right now, and SmackDown doesn't feel like a hot brand because, I mean, maybe because Roman Reigns and CM Punk spent half their promo burying SmackDown and the Undisputed Championship. So, like, Orton and Drew, I feel like we've seen that a million times. I'm fine with Jacob Fatu and Drew. I don't think that's a main event match, though. It's a fine world title match. But we're theorizing that this is going to main event night one of WrestleMania. I don't think they have a great night one main event, honestly. I don't know who you put in that spot, because the women's stuff, Liv and Stephanie Vaquer, isn't this super hot match. I like both of them, but Vaquer's not really hot right now, thanks to her booking stuff. Jade and who? I have no idea. Like, I guess you can put Charlotte there, but you got to work to build her back up because she's been doing tag team stuff. I've been saying Rhea Ripley should be the night one headliner. I've said that for months, but she's just doing tag team stuff. I mean, maybe if you do a women's TLC match for the tag team titles, that can headline night one, because that might be your most star power and your most intriguing stuff, because the stuff they're doing with the women's tag team titles is... there's some actual substance to it. But the Drew stuff, I don't think they have anything that's like really hot for him as a challenger. They haven't built anybody. Like, they haven't built a great baby face during this whole time. Like, Cody's just been the baby face.
Yeah, or they can finally roll with LA Knight, but that's like such a wild card.
Yeah, and like, I don't think that LA Knight's a bad choice, especially like LA Knight and Drew McIntyre is something different and something new. I'm not like mad at that. I think they could have like some decent material as well. There's some history there, even if it's not like direct history, but just the history of, he has the Unchosen shirt now. Drew was obviously the chosen one back in the day, so you can play off of a lot of stuff with them. LA Knight's not nearly as hot as he was a year ago, 2 years ago at all, but at least it is something different.
Yeah, speaking of something different in LA Knight, I really think that he needs to do a couple things, and like there's something missing, right? Like there's like it isn't charisma, it isn't that quote unquote X factor. Like, I think he actually has those things to stay as over as he has, doing what he's doing for this long. I got to give him his credit. And he looks like a professional wrestler. He talks and acts like a professional wrestler. He literally acts like professional wrestlers that he he emulates a lot of professional wrestlers. And that said, I think something he should do is take a page out of Randy Savage's book. He's already, I know they have like multiple people that kind of represent Slim Jim, but I think LA Knight really is kind of the main one, at least the one that I've seen the most in the Slim Jim advertisements and stuff. So his finishing, this all ties together. His finishing move is terrible. Like that blunt force trauma where he just like face plants himself while he does like a hybrid RKO cutter stunner thing. It looks terrible. Like I can't ever get over it. It's like the worst finishing move I've ever seen in my life. But I'm going to give him a compliment sandwich here. His elbow drop where he like jumps from the second rope up to the top and does an elbow drop. That's really nice. Like use that as a finishing move, or come up with something. Just honestly, anything else than the blunt force trauma. I think it looks terrible. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I would honestly even lean more into like outrageous outfits. I know that Seth Rollins is kind of the guy that does that, but Randy Savage, was really known for like the really flashy gear. And LA Knight with like his big sunglasses and all that stuff, like he could get away with like he could be more toyetic, if that makes sense, like action figures and stuff. Like he could be more of like a larger than life personality. I feel like if he changed a couple small things. I'm behind him getting a chance. There's just a couple things that I feel like they just need to tweak about him.
I'm okay with the finisher critique because sometimes it doesn't look great. I think he likes it, and this is the case for a lot of people. It's a move you can hit on anybody. Right? Like you can do that to a bigger guy, you can do it to a smaller guy. Like you can kind of hit that move on anyone. And that's the start of a good finisher, is you want to be able to pull it off on anyone. But some people don't take it well, or the setup isn't good and it doesn't look great. I don't need him dressing like Randy Savage. Like Seth already does that. I think how he dresses like kind of works for him. I don't know how he goes like over the top on that. I don't think that would be good.
Gigantic Dumb and Dumber style cowboy hat. I'm not saying to dress like Randy Savage. I'm just saying he could get away with wearing. I don't know. I think his gear just kind of. I don't like the pop collar no sleeve vest thing that he wear. I don't know. Just kind of like. No one would ever wear that in real life either. You never see somebody wearing that anywhere ever, anything like that.
No one wears.
So like, if you're gonna already
Savage get up,
that's what I'm saying. If you're already gonna do that, then like wear something crazy. Like I don't know. Seth Rollins is working really good for him. I'm just saying, like, Seth Rollins is doing. I mean, he keeps getting hurt. That has nothing to do with his.
Yeah, but you can't. Right, but you can't out Seth. So. I think he has a good mix with especially with the vest of like kind of casual wear, because you see CM Punk and Roman Reigns, they just come out hoodie, t-shirt, whatever. Like they're not over the top or anything. He kind of LA Knight just has just a t-shirt sometimes, so he kind of has like the casual wear, but then the vest helps him with the different kind of aesthetic with that. I don't think you can. The glasses I think are good too. Like he has that.
The glasses are good.
I think he's in the middle of the casual wear that you see with Punk and Reigns, and then the over the top stuff you see with Seth. And I think that works for him, because I think if he swings too far one way, then he kind of gets grouped in with those guys, and you're not gonna be as needlessly or effortlessly cool as Roman Reigns is, because I mean his style like completely works for him. You can't be that cool. I don't care who you are. Roman Reigns just the coolest dude, and you can't be as over the top as Seth, because I think only Seth can pull that off. You're gonna wear a suit all the time like Cody, like you can't do that. He has that. Like I think his aesthetic works for him. I don't know what else you want from him.
I mean, it's just a small critique. I'm more concerned about the blunt force trauma, to be honest, than the gear. But And the main reason I even bring up with the finisher, other than like it bothers me personally seeing it, is because there have been similar moves throughout wrestling history, right? Like the stroke from Jeff Jarrett's kind of similar, but he's not face planting himself. Like he's going down face first, but he's not hitting the ground the same way. Like LA Knight's taking a face bump every time he does that move. It's almost like how Big E would take a back bump every time he'd do the big ending, and sometimes it would look like he was giving himself the move and stuff like that. Like there's certain moves like that are just kind of weird. Even I remember Jericho was doing a version of that. I think he called it the breakdown. Remember for like a really short time he was doing basically a version of the stroke. Grandmaster Sexay did it. Like so there's been similar moves where people do similar stuff, but it always looks bad when like I have my regular friends that I watch wrestling with every now, like occasionally or often. Like I have my buddy Mike and my brother come over for AEW most weeks and stuff. But then I have like my friends who I only see a few times a year. And sometimes we'll actually get together and watch like SummerSlam or WrestleMania or something like that, like a bigger pay-per-view that we used to watch when we were younger. And every person, and this is also part of the reason I've warmed up to LA Knight. Every single person I have watched wrestling with over the last probably 2 years that has seen LA Knight for the first time likes LA Knight. Every single one of them is like, they hear the crowd, gets massive pop when he comes out. They think he's shredded, looks like a, in 80s, 90s pro wrestler. And the whole thing, and they're into it. And then every single person mentions, like at the end of the match, they don't know what happened. Like they think he tripped. Like they're like, they just always, every single person I've ever watched a match of his with mentions the finisher looking wrong. And it's like, if he was just doing a move, like that's why I mentioned the elbow drop. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly that, but just have a move where like build anticipation. You can do an elbow drop to anybody, it takes longer, but I'm just saying, change the move. That's one thing. That's like the one thing. I'll give you back the dress, however. I don't care how you dress. Change your finishing move. And anyway, LA Knight's not going to win the chamber, but hey, maybe he'll get that big push one of these days. And I'm for him getting a push at some point. My official prediction is Cody Rhodes to win the chamber. Also, Javon Evans I know is in the match, so I'm sure he'll do some cool stuff. He always breaks out some really cool moves, innovative moves. He did that one move the other day where he did like a springboard off the bottom rope into like a kung fu like low key style barrel roll kick. Like it was super super innovative. I was watching Cody's interview with, or Rey Mysterio's interview with Cody. Well, however you would say it. Cody Rhodes was interviewing Rey Mysterio on his podcast. I watched it today, and Cody said what I've been saying, even as the biggest Cody Rhodes fan in the world. Javon Evans is the kind of guy where like when he does these moves, like when Cody does his Cody cutter or his super Cody cutter, like even he admits it's like, then he sees Javon do it and he's like, should I stop doing mine? Like, because like Javon's looks so much. Honestly, I agree. Like if Javon's going to also do that move, but to be fair, I'm not telling Javon not to do that move. Like he should, he looks incredible when he does that. But like, Javon is so good that like he could really choose pretty much any moves he wants to do because athletically he could do any of them. So like,
yeah, so he should keep doing the moves that he makes look good, so Cody stops doing it and it looks dumb.
Well, that particular move I would stop if I was Cody because it doesn't even regardless of Javon Evans, whether he was doing it or not. The regular Cody cutter usually comes across decently, but there's something about the way his opponents bump for it, and I can't blame his opponents necessarily because it's happened with so many of them. It's got to have to do with Cody to some degree. There's like it doesn't always click exactly right. It looks really cool, but then the problem is like Cody does it, and then you see Javon do it. Javon does it twice as high and hits it cleaner, and it's like, one of you guys have got to stop doing this move. And, Cody's got the clout to kibosh that if he wanted to, but I don't think he would. Javon's got to keep doing it. But my point is, Javon is so athletically talented. He could do this with literally any move. So you got to kind of pick and choose which your moveset's going to be. Otherwise, you're just going to do everyone's moves better than they do, which is kind of a good problem to have if you're Javon Evans, because he's just that talented. But you guys get the point I'm trying to make.
Javon should win the Chamber, and then he should headline WrestleMania against Drew, and they should actually put someone young over for once.
I mean, it would be cool to see them actually do something like that. I don't think that they would, but for Javon to be in this position, this quickly into his actual main roster run with the WWE is very it's very promising. They're putting a lot, because the thing with him is because he's still, how old is he? 22?
Yeah, I think 22.
I mean that's, and he's only going to keep filling out. He hasn't even grown into his adult body yet. You know what I mean? He's going to be around for a long time. He just got to stay healthy. Which, you could say about anybody, obviously, but for a guy like him who is so athletic and bounces off the ropes all over the place and stuff, I just hope that he doesn't, I hope he doesn't get hurt or have any injury issues or anything like that. I think he's going to be really, really valuable to the company.
Henry says LA Knight. Yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate you, Henry. Anything else from Elimination Chamber?
Oh, geez. I feel like that was not really outside of. I know that some of the women have qualified as well, but I don't know. I know it's going to be for whoever's going to wrestle Jade.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if it's going to be Jade because Liv hasn't made a decision. It seems like it's leaning towards Vecker at this point, but there hasn't actually been a decision made.
I guess I was just assuming as well that it was going to be Vecker, but I guess technically it hasn't. Like you said, it could technically be either. I think everyone's also kind of been holding out hope that Bianca is going to be ready, but I feel like the closer we get to WrestleMania, the less likely that is. But it would be cool.
If she just underwent surgery on her finger this week, because I know she's been rehabbing it. She says she's been rehabbing it, so. It's obviously been a pretty devastating injury. You would think it's a finger, you'd be fine, but it's going to keep her out a year. If I'm WWE, I'm working under the assumption that she will not be ready at this point because there's no real indication that she will be ready in 2 months when it's already been 10 months.
So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think she'll be ready either in that case, especially. So that's too bad. I think that's the plan that WWE originally had when they put the title on Jade. I think they were hoping probably that they could get to a Jade and Bianca. At least the story made sense, and obviously they had to change things too with Trinity, or Naomi rather. With her pregnancy, things had to change with the title and stuff as well. So. This is a good question. Thank you for the super chat again, Cyclops. He asks, who wins a title first, Trick, Oba, or Javon? And his money is on Trick. That's a good. It depends. It depends on obviously a lot of different factors. I don't think they're gonna push Oba straight into becoming the champion, only because they're where do you go from there? You want the guy to have a long career and a long run, and I don't know if you want him to be the champion immediately. You might want to build him for a little while. It depends on how the build is, but I might just have him continue to destroy people like he is, and then I think a lot of people were hoping for Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania this year based on what we saw at the Royal Rumble and stuff. But I think it's still a possibility. But I've also heard rumors that they might do Brock versus LA Knight, which, if they wound up doing that, that sounds a lot like the Dean Ambrose Brock Lesnar match, where I just feel like Brock's just gonna And that's, and we just give a lot of compliments to LA Knight. I don't want to see LA Knight have to go through what Jon Moxley had to go through that night at WrestleMania and just not get anything in on Brock. But I have a feeling that's kind of how that would go. So, yeah, that said, I don't think Oba right away. And I don't know what title you're talking. I mean, if you're talking about any championship, that's a different question. If you're talking about a world title, I don't know how long it takes Javon just because of his age. I feel like they're going to really like slow burn him because they have so much time with him. They'll probably have him win lower card titles and stuff and build him longer. So I honestly would probably say Trick also. And that's mainly because he gets really loud reactions when he comes out. Like the crowd is very into him and he has a look and already has accomplished a lot as far as like NXT, TNA. He's proven himself technically in multiple companies as a top guy outside of the WWE with, like I said, with NXT and TNA. And he's a good worker. I guess I would say if we're talking world championship, I actually think probably Trick Williams out of those three also. What do you think, Jeremy?
I would go Trick out of those three as well. Javon, they'll probably say he's too young, and so that's why they won't give it to him. Oba, like they clearly like Oba, and they liked him in NXT. But he's just like done nothing so far with the main. Like it's just been vignettes and like squash matches, and now he might be feuding with Rusev and. Like Rusev's just kind of positioned where he's positioned. Like they've already put Trick in main event spots, so I think that shows they already feel pretty strongly about Trick, and it feels like he's on a quicker path to stardom than Oba or Javon at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. But I do think that they have big long-term plans for all three of them. Yeah. If you're talking in Cyclops clarifies any title probably Javon, just because they could put him in literally any situation from main event and Elimination Chamber like we're about to see all the way down to like not that I want to see him as the speed champion, but you know what I mean, like he could win that tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm just like he could be involved in the IC or US championship scene and win that title once again tomorrow, and like people wouldn't be mad about it. You know what I mean? So I think Javon probably gets the first title of any of them.
I might still go with Trick because especially with Carmelo holding the US title, what's to stop them from Trick just having him answer the open challenge and beating him?
I mean, that does line up perfectly, like with Carmelo being the current US champion. I guess figured that would happen later down the line. That match, they would like really build towards something that wouldn't happen anytime soon. I just kind of feel like, not to say that they shouldn't do that, but I think preferably they could build towards that because they have that history in NXT and everything. But I'm with you. That would line up perfectly. They could the story already writes itself. If they could, once again, they could do that match at WrestleMania if they wanted to this year and build it over the next couple months, and it would also make sense. So
Henry asking Stephanie versus Liv, does Dom turn on Liv? I don't think so. I think Dom he's too good as a heel. I think they like him too much as a heel, and I suspect Balor's gonna turn, so I don't know why you would do a Balor babyface turn and then a Dom babyface turn.
So are you saying that they are doing a Balor babyface turn?
That's what they're kind of angling towards, yes.
After Elimination Chamber?
Yeah.
Okay. Because obviously he was a babyface for his hometown in the loss to Punk, and then I know he stayed heel and almost essentially kind of like returned heading into Elimination Chamber. I don't know. I'm for either option because I like everyone involved with this, with like Liv, Dom, and Balor. So really whatever route they want to go with, I'm fine. I think Dom does incredible heel work and gets great reactions, but he also at some point is going to be a huge baby face. Just a matter of when they decide they want to have him start wrestling heels. That's all you have to do. Like, you don't have to change anything else about him. Just have him start wrestling heels instead of baby faces, and he'll just start getting cheered like crazy and be super over as a baby face. But same with Balor, and I have no idea what Balor's contract situation is like or anything like that.
No, he's got a while.
Does he? Okay, yeah. Good. That's good to know, because I know he's not old, but he's got a lot of. I mean, he had a long career before he was even signed to the WWE, and he's been in WWE now for over a decade, and has dealt with his fair share of serious injuries and stuff as well along the way.
Yeah, in July 2024, he said he just signed a new 5-year deal. So
good.
He's got a while.
Okay, well, in that case also, he's locked in. He's committed to them. They're committed to him. Yeah, I hope that they, whether he turns or not, I hope they continue to push him as one of the top guys, consistently as a top singles star. Him and JD can team still if they want to or whatever at some points, but they don't really. I've really enjoyed Balor in this most recent run and what he's done with Punk. And, he was just kind of almost a background, not forgotten guy, but, Finn Balor is really one of the top guys of his generation when you take his full body of work and his full career into account, inside and outside the WWE, and with the Bullet Club, founding that and everything. It's just he's just one of those guys where he came in WWE and he was NXT. He was basically the face of NXT when NXT was really starting to pop, and injury after he became the Universal Champion. And for the last handful of years, it just kind of felt like he was another guy in the Judgment Day, because there were so many people coming and going from that group, from Edge to Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and so on and so forth. Balor was never the main person in that group really at any point. And now it feels like it's time to just, finally give the guy a singles push again. It's been long enough. So it's just going to be interesting to see where they go from here, because it'll be back to, I'm assuming he's going to lose to CM Punk. So now it's going to be back-to-back losses for Balor in world title matches. So you got to have some sort of big change, like a babyface turn. And I think they'll do him and Dom at WrestleMania. So it's just a matter of, which route they want to go for that.
Our other WWE topic is what is in the crate that will be revealed at Elimination Chamber. What do you think, Jensen?
So I think that they want us all to think it's Chris Jericho, because it's essentially a countdown, which is very Jericho-esque. Chicago is where he made his WWE debut in 1999. That's where they're going to be for Elimination Chamber. Personally, I hope it's Jericho. I want to see him back in the WWE. It's been long enough that he's just been gone from wrestling altogether. I thought that the timing of Fightful Select reporting that Jericho's contract was frozen was very not a coincidence. They've been so vague about, not they've Fightful, but they've Tony Khan been very vague this whole time. Whenever asked about Jericho up until this point, it's very complimentary. Tony's given Jericho a lot of credit and and said that he's been a really valuable part of AEW, but he's never outright said that Jericho's gone. Jericho remains on the AEW roster page. But he's been very, very vague about the entire situation. And then this box or this crate or whatever you want to call it appears on Raw. And then within a day or so, the reports are out that Jericho got frozen. And it's there's no way that's a coincidence, the timing of that. So I just think that that's very it's just interesting. either there's people there's a lot of people out there from all angles that want you to believe it's Jericho or want you to believe it isn't Jericho. But either way, if it let's say if it isn't Chris Jericho, what is it? It's a human-sized box. I don't think they're going to expect anybody to think that there's a person in there this entire time. So I know that I'm sure that you, as well as everybody watching or listening to this, all thought Jericho when you saw that. So what did you think, Jeremy? And what, if it isn't Jericho, what is in this box?
I did not think Jericho at all. My first thought was, oh, this is some WWE 2K26 gimmick. That was legitimately my first thought. I was like, this has something to do with the video game, and the reveal is going to be at Elimination Chamber. I didn't think it was a person. I didn't think it was Chris Jericho. I just assume it has something to do with the video game. My expectations are very low when it comes to this stuff. I don't think they're already running a mystery man angle. Now you're running a mystery crate angle. Like, okay.
Is the mystery man Austin Theory, or not Austin Theory, Grayson Waller? I see a lot of people saying that they think it's him.
I mean, it might be Grayson Waller playing the mystery man. Whether or not that's who it turns out to be is something different. But
yeah,
I just thought it was a 2K tie-in. I mean, we'll find out next weekend, but I don't have high hopes for it. If it turns out to be Chris Jericho, cool. If it turns out to be, I've seen people say Danhausen. All right, that's fine. I hope it's something good. I hope it's something worth talking about.
Yeah.
My guess is, hey, you can pre-order 2K now and get this statue or whatever. Get this character, and that's it. So that's where I'm at on it.
Well, that's a bummer. that's I mean, yeah, it could very well be that. I know this is definitely the season where they really ramp all that stuff up. I know that Raw is going to be back in Atlanta, I think this Monday.
Yeah, this Monday.
And I do not plan on going unless, someone swings me tickets or something last minute, which I'm not asking for. I'm just saying I'm not. The tickets are so outrageously expensive at this point that I'm like, there's no. In parking is just as expensive as the tickets now to downtown Atlanta. It's just not even worth it. But I did see AJ Styles is going to have some sort of send off or something's going to happen with AJ Styles. So that'll be interesting. But the reason I'm saying this is because I went to Raw a little over a year ago, and it was around this time, and they did the big 2K reveal then, and this is the same week, around the same time of the year and everything. So I'd imagine I could totally see it just being a 2K thing. I mean, I don't think Chris Jericho is going to pop out of that box, by the way, but I think that something Chris Jericho related could pop out of the box, and then Chris Jericho actually does return. But I don't know. Powder Hour Finisher says it's a statue of Triple H pointing. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the bronze, the Sting statue and the Seth Rollins thing and all that. Definitely reminds me of that for sure. I don't know.
I don't have high hopes for this. Sorry to kill your buzz on it.
Well, I honestly didn't have high hopes either outside. Well, I mean, Jericho has high hopes because I want to see him, return to the company. But if it's not him, then yeah, pretty much anything outside of that's going to be disappointing to me. But it would be especially lame if it's just because these 2K games have gotten so out of control. It's the regular edition and the deluxe edition and the Monday Night Wars edition and the Attitude Era edition and the Triple H edition. Who asked for a Triple H? Dude, okay. This guy has done at no point. I'm just going to have to keep it real here. And you're going to have to back me up because we are the same age and we lived through it at the same time. At what era ever was Triple H actually the guy in the WWE? Ever. Like, where he was the main guy in the company. Outside of, like, maybe that one little, if you want to make the argument for, like, Evolution-ish era where he was burying all of our favorite wrestlers like Booker T and Rob Van Dam and stuff, where there was really nobody else. Outside of that really, really short amount of time, was there any ever a time where he was actually the guy?
I mean, that would have been it. He was the guy in his own mind, and is the guy in as far as how he was kind of like pushed and presented, but no one actually, like, he was never the top draw when it came to that. And you're preaching to the choir here. They push him this way because he's there and he's Triple H, and as much as he doesn't want the attention, he gets all the attention. But everyone knows that Austin, Rock, even Foley, I'm not the biggest Undertaker fan, but Undertaker is more important and more of a legendary figure than Triple H.
Sure.
And then you go into the next era, and obviously it's like Cena. I think Batista is a bigger star than all of that. They're gonna do and I don't think lowly of Randy Orton or anything, but they're gonna do the same thing with Randy Orton. They're gonna prop Randy Orton as being the Triple H of his era, which is probably true, but they're gonna make it seem like he was a bigger deal than he was, where Randy Orton was never really the guy either. It was always a Cena or a Batista. It wasn't Orton during that, and then Roman, like that. Those were the guys during. Like, you can even go Punk over Orton. It was never really Orton, but they're gonna make it seem like he was the top guy.
Yeah, and that was my whole, I guess, issue with, especially this year when it came to the video game and all these different editions of the game, all these money grabs, because you already have a Monday Night War edition, which Triple H was in the Monday Night Wars, and as you just confirmed for me, he wasn't even in the top 10 top people in the Monday Night Wars. If you're counting WCW and WWE at that time, he wasn't even near that. So you have that where Triple H was already involved, not the guy at all. And then you have the Attitude Era edition, which is technically specifically WWF, I'm guessing, is how they're making that separation. But the Attitude Era technically kind of happened like during the Monday Night Wars. Also, maybe technically the tail end, also heading into 2000s. But like, there's a lot of overlap there with like the talent and stuff. The same people. Once again, Triple H wasn't the guy then either. Like, he was one of the top guys, but if we're going to talk Attitude Era, it's going to be the people like you mentioned. It's going to be Austin, Rock, Foley, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels before he left. If you count him, that's maybe technically right before, if you want to get technical. But Triple H is outside of all of that. Even Kane, that then was way bigger than Triple H, physically and popularity wise. So you had, so once again, and then it's like, so on top of all that, it's like this year where you have those two editions already for this whole era, you also have a Triple H edition, a specific Triple H edition that nobody is asking for. So it's just super, yeah. Anyway, the crate reminds me of that. Like, that's just, it wouldn't surprise me if it was something super lame like that, where now I've convinced myself that it's going to be some really lame ass 2K thing. Thanks, Jeremy. We can move on.
Sorry. All right.
Don't buy the Triple H edition of the game, guys. Just don't buy it. Send a message. If you're going to buy the game, just buy whatever one Cody is like on the cover of.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show. And I think it's been a run of great shows.
Swerve Strickland proved he was the most dangerous man once again by killing Kenny Omega with a vertebraker through a table last night after defeating him in a singles match. What did you make of this, I guess, official heel turn for Swerve?
The match itself was really good. Really, really damn good. And I like how they did the heel turn during the match where Swerve started doing heelish stuff. And then especially by the time, well, I think the first main thing was when he pulled Aubrey in the way of the V trigger. And then he removed the bottom of the turnbuckle and did like the slingshot to Kenny's throat, which was another heel move, of course. And by that point, it was pretty obvious what direction they were going. But then even after the match was over, after Swerve had won, after hitting big pressure, they all hit all their moves. Well, actually, Kenny Omega never hit the one-winged angel, but that's because they really protect that move. So he didn't hit it at all. And they're going to save that for later. I'm sure they'll have another match, these two, and Kenny will win probably with the one-winged angel, is my guess, some point down the line. But yeah, this match was awesome. And then when it looked like maybe Swerve, I thought maybe the route that they would go is, even though Swerve went to those lengths, he was still gonna not fully turn, and maybe he'd still like help Omega up, and they would just kind of understand that he did it because he had to, kind of thing. Even though it'd be kind of lame for Kenny to accept that, you can make it work if you explained it the right way. But I liked the route that they went way better, where Swerve just beat the hell out of him instead. And that vertebreaker through the announce table was awesome. I think that was sick. So I'm a mark for a good vertebreaker. That's one of my favorite moves of all time. And a move that Cody whips out occasionally as well, which I appreciate. But yeah, it's interesting them going this route. I'm not against it, by the way. I think Swerve is a better heel than he is a babyface personally. But the dynamic there is going to be very interesting because he did that to Kenny Omega, who of course has a long history and friendship with Hangman Page, and Hangman and Swerve have finally gotten on the same page themselves recently. So this is obviously going to cause issues between Hangman and Swerve again. So, that's a fight forever type situation, which is cool that AEW has those. You have that is a good example, and you have other things you can call back to, like MJF and Darby, for instance, and stuff like that. So even MJF and Hangman, which they've had a history since day one of AEW, which they are the match for the title coming up at Revolution. So yeah, I don't know. I think that how do you feel about it? I think that I'm not against Swerve being a heel. I just think the timing. By the way, this isn't a critique, any of this. It's actually a compliment. I didn't really see this coming this way, honestly. But like now that it's happened, it makes sense, and I think it's going to set up a lot of really good stuff for AEW. Can use a heel like Swerve in that position. So I think this is going to be good.
I liked it. I liked how it was done. Swerve is a much better heel than babyface, and you've already kind of got, especially with Kenny back and Kenny in the title picture. Hangman's Hangman, although we'll see how much longer he remains in the title picture after his stipulation for Revolution. Like I have no problem with Swerve being positioned this way as a heel. Now there might actually be more open spots on the babyface side with the way things are shaking out with this Hangman stuff, because you have Kenny and then Moxley. Moxley's technically a babyface. I mean, I guess Moxley's a babyface. His group is still kind of heelish, at least certain members of his group. But Moxley's acting more like a babyface. So Moxley's there, but Moxley's got his own title right now that he's defending. Maybe if Takeshita turns, you'll have him as a babyface. I mean, you look at the world title picture, though. MJF is obviously heel. Brody's a big babyface. If Brody stays in the world title picture, then okay, you got a good babyface there. And a Brody Swerve feud would actually be really good. So I'm all for that. I know then it's gonna be like, oh well, who loses? Figure it out. A guy's got to lose in that scenario. You can't have. It'll be fine. You can't have everybody just beat a bunch of nobodies the entire time. But Andrade's in the world title picture. He's obviously a heel. You can kind of put Okada there anytime you want. Fletcher, I know, has the TNT title, much like Moxley has his own title because everyone has the title. But he's another guy who's very much on the heel side who can kind of slot into the world title picture. So they're leaning more on heels, and now with the addition of Swerve, it's an extra heel that they have. But I think he's better than. I mean, I think he's better at being a heel than kind of all of these guys outside of MJF. Samoa Joe, whenever he gets back, heel as well, although he could easily flip babyface with one promo. But yeah, I think he's better than all these guys, honestly, as a heel.
Well, you missed one key babyface that has history with these guys that I think is going to be big coming up is Darby, because the reason I'm saying this is because Darby I think he's going to be one of the main baby faces in the top position soon, like where it makes sense if you look at it from that position where maybe they're thinking, well, Swerve has to kind of move to the side because Darby's going to be the next big baby face, and Swerve and Darby have a lot of history. You can do Darby as a baby face versus heel Swerve. Darby and MJF have a lot of history. You do the two of them. So from the perspective of Darby being probably getting that push in wrestling Swerve and wrestling MJF, I'd imagine probably pretty soon, I think it makes a lot of sense.
No, I agree with that. Of Darby should be in that spot. Right now, he's just kind of doing the thing with Gabe Kidd, and that's probably why I forgot about him, because he's not interacting. There's no knock on Gabe Kidd. I think that Gabe Kidd is great. He is who he is in AEW. Unlike everybody else I mentioned, he's not interacting with any of the top guys at the moment. You know, Moxley and Takeshita are tied. Okada is obviously in that realm. Fletcher's in that realm. Andrade's in that realm. Brody, MJF, Hangman, Kenny, they're all within kind of an orbit of each other, or at least like a degree or two of separation. Darby, since he's done with the Moxley stuff, and Gabe Kidd is sort of tied to the Death Riders, but not really anymore because he's never actually with them. He's just not in the in that realm of like title contenders. But I do agree with you 100% that yeah, when they decide to move Darby into that spot, that's your guy. That's your top baby face. It's just when are they going to move him into that spot?
Right, and that timeline gets even more murky. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, like, they're running the videos. I know he's out right now, and this is again why I didn't immediately mention him. Will Ospreay's coming back. He's going to be immediately positioned as a top baby face. Yes,
you're 1,000,000% right about that. And so it gets even more murky too, in that mentioning Ospreay as well, especially, but the Hangman stipulation, if he can't win the AEW world title like Cody, is AEW, I don't want to say it like this because I like Tony Khan. I love AEW. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick as I say this, but like, is AEW actually stupid enough to do that stipulation and actually go through with that again? Because they pigeonholed themselves so bad with Cody, but now they've pigeonholed themselves with the match itself, because now it's like either you're going to pull the trigger and Hangman, people are going to be like, well, it was predictable because of course Hangman's not going to lose this match and never challenge for the title again, or do you actually pigeonhole yourself to where Hangman can't win the title ever again? That would be a terrible decision, I think.
Well, do they do what many thought they should have done with Cody, is he doesn't win this match and then turns heel and goes back on the stipulation somehow?
That would be way better than what they ultimately wound up doing with Cody and just sticking to him not, not challenging. And also that was a loss to MJF also, which is, Cody's was a loss to Jericho, but MJF cost him the match.
Yeah.
Like, he came out and interfered. But once again, the reason that's relevant is because if Hangman, so in my personal opinion, I think MJF should hold on to the title and be the champion longer. Like, I don't want to see him lose the title to Hangman at Revolution personally. I like Hangman a lot, but MJF's probably my favorite wrestler in AEW, like overall, and he's a very unique heel, and I think that he still hasn't even hit his prime yet, and like, why take the title off him again so soon? I just don't think you need to. And I'd prefer if Darby was the one to beat MJF because of their history. And it would be poetic if Darby beat him with a headlock takeover. Because MJF beat him twice with that headlock takeover. If Darby pins MJF for the title with that move, it's like a full circle story being told that was like 7 years in the making. Like, the two of them had the opening match. I think it was Full Gear a few years ago, and it was one of my favorite matches in AEW history. And they have so many things they can call back to over the years between those guys. So I personally want to see MJF hold the title long enough for Darby to become the champion. But I do think it's a foregone conclusion that Ospreay is going to become the champion probably at All In. So, and you could also do Ospreay versus Darby. Like, that at All In would be huge if Darby was the champion going into All In, for instance, and that was the Ospreay match. That match would be insane. But anyway, that's just me kind of like fantasy booking out loud. How do you think that it wasn't one of our spotlights, but do you think that Hangman is just going to win the championship back, or do you think that they go that route or the heel route?
So it's weird because it's not a guarantee that that's the stipulation. They kind of, right. I don't know if they messed up the wording last night and now they're trying to save it, but they're doing a segment on Wednesday where it's MJF and Hangman agree to the AEW Revolution stipulation, which, and MJF said, like, I have a week to decide the stipulation.
Right.
Because I think MJF likes the idea of Hangman putting his world title future on the line, but he said it like he doesn't like the idea of it being a Texas death match. So I'm wondering if like it's a negotiation, like MJF presents his stipulation and then Hangman has to accept that, or they negotiate what the stipulation might be. So it's very possible that they don't go through with this at all. Now I think once you like throw it out there, you almost like have to do it, but maybe they don't because they see the feedback and they say, okay, yeah, that was a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing that one like we did with Cody. So I'm gonna wait until things become kind of official before deciding on a winner and loser on that one. First thought, I don't think MJF should be losing the title. I also think it's pretty stupid to not have Hangman potentially never challenge for the title again. Like, if you're going to uphold that stipulation, this is a guy who should be in the company, who should be in your company for like the next decade at the very least. And you're telling me for 10 years, a 2-time champion is just never, like, we know he's not going to be at the top. It kind of kills some of the character as well. Mm-hmm. Because let's say he feuds with Swerve again. Okay, if he wins, well, where does he go from there? He can't challenge for the title. Well, no matter who he feuds with, there's no upward trajectory to if he wins that feud because he can't challenge for the title. That seems very, and that was the problem with Cody, right? I mean, you know better than anybody, is like he tried to make the TNT title, and for a while, like he did a good job with it. But no matter who Cody feuded with, some of them felt colder than they probably should have because, all right, Cody wins, great. He can't go after the world title, so there's no upward momentum.
Yeah, that was one of the stupidest booking decisions in the history of pro wrestling. Having arguably the guy who was, I mean, obviously Tony Khan's money was the most important factor in AEW being able to exist. But if you're talking one single wrestler, you can make the argument for Jericho, and I know the Kenny and the Bucks and all of them collectively the elite. But like Cody was a big part of that, like a very big part of that. And for him to immediately be pigeonholed in the company that he helped create from essentially pretty much day one, they established this guy can't ever be the world champion. And then people started turning on him because he was stuck in the Codyverse. And it's like, well, there was nowhere else for him to go because he couldn't be involved in anything that mattered. So he had to be involved in this thing to the side that wasn't really attached to anything else. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible decision. So yes, I think that they should definitely not do that with Hangman. And I was also very confused yesterday or last night when I was watching the show for all the reasons you just mentioned, because, Hangman announces he's going to do that, put his title opportunities in jeopardy, put that on the line in this match. And then he also said Texas Death, and MJF also explained that he had a week to decide on his stipulation. So I don't know. I think everyone was confused kind of coming out of that as to what exactly we're getting. But now the toothpaste has kind of been, shot out of the tube, and you can't put it back in because now everyone's talking about the stipulations that we're talking about, and everyone kind of thinks that that's what we're getting. So the only way you can fix this, and it's not ideal, but it's probably just the best route, is going to be similar to when the explosion didn't go off on Eddie Kingston, and you kind of had to just like laugh it off and just kind of explain it real quick on TV, like, psych, like it's not exactly what you thought it was. That's pretty much what you're going to have to do with this, is pretty much be like you said, Jeremy, pretty much say, I used that to lure you into the stipulation I really wanted. Like you have to do something like that to get out of it.
Yeah, we'll see what they come up with the stipulation, if they do go through with it or not. Again, Wednesday they're supposed to make an actual decision with everything. So there you go. The other AEW spotlight is Kyle Fletcher getting the TNT Championship back. He defeated Tommaso Ciampa to win it back, and then defended it in a ladder match against Mark Briscoe. What did you make of Fletcher getting it back as quickly as he kind of lost it there?
So,
well, sorry. Mark Briscoe had it for a while, but Fletcher getting it quickly from Ciampa is what I meant.
Right. They essentially made Ciampa a quote unquote transitional champion, but I don't count it as like negatively as I guess I normally would for a transitional champ, because Ciampa, I mean, he did still win the title in his first match in the company, and it was kind of a way of doing something different than just going Fletcher to Briscoe, back and forth over and over. And the matches were really good. I mean, as wrestling fans, we got some really damn good matches out of the combination of all these guys, Ciampa included, of course. But yeah, I thought that the only downside to this, and it's not any wrestler's fault at all, it's just booking wise, once you put it together that the show was going to be in Australia and Fletcher being the champion going into that show makes all the sense in the world and all that stuff. That was the only thing about the Ciampa match where I was like, I think that Fletcher, if that match wasn't happening in Australia that weekend, like, I don't know if they would have made that change, or I would have been would have been as surprised.
Well, I think here's the thing is they obviously had this Australia date for months in advance. I think that Fletcher was going to win the title back in Australia in a ladder match against Mark Briscoe, but they got Ciampa on very short notice because contract came up, and they decided, we're going to bring him in. We're going to make an immediate impact with him. Let's put the title on him in his first match. And that's why his run was so short. They didn't want to do Ciampa winning and then losing it right back to Mark Briscoe, so they had him lose it to Kyle Fletcher instead, and then Fletcher came up with the ladder match against Briscoe to settle the TNT title. But I don't think Ciampa was ever the plan of winning the title. I think the plan was always Mark Briscoe was going to lose a ladder match to Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title, but Briscoe wasn't going to lose the title to Ciampa ever. I
think that everything you just said is exactly how everything went down to a T. I think you're 1,000,000% right about all of that. Because obviously the Ciampa signing kind of came out of, I mean, we don't know how long that both sides were interested or talking or whatever, but I mean, he was a free agent for like a day.
Yeah, if you go with what Ciampa said, like no one knew when his contract expired. He said Gargano didn't even know when his contract expired. So if Gargano didn't know, I imagine no one in AEW really knew. And then his contract expired, and once he put it out there that hey, it's expiring, sounded like he got quick interest from AEW, and it came together pretty quickly on things. But obviously, on January 20th, I think I might have the dates a little out of order. No, because his contract came up early February. Regardless, like obviously, let's say at the start of the year, because Briscoe was the champion at the start of the year. At the start of the year, they did not know they were going to have Tommaso Ciampa by mid-February. So they were never planning to put the title on him at that point. I think the plan was always Fletcher gets the title at Grand Slam Australia, because that's been on the books for months now.
Right, but essentially what you're saying, which I agree with in hindsight, I think it makes perfect sense, that they were always going to do Briscoe versus Fletcher in a ladder match in Australia at Grand Slam for the TNT Championship, and Fletcher was going to leave that match with that championship. The only thing that really changed in the grand scheme of things is Fletcher was the champion going into the match instead of Briscoe and retained the title, because they had that rare opportunity where Ciampa was able to be in the mix randomly for a couple of weeks during that as the transitional champion. So I think that you're right on the money with all of that. And by the way, all these matches we're talking about were great. Kyle Fletcher is, it's obvious that the company has very big plans for him. So we're just got to kind of ride the, stay the course or whatever you'd say, just stay healthy and just keep getting better. And, hopefully they are able to keep him. I have no idea what his contract looks like either, one way or another, but he's a guy that I think AEW needs to be very, they need to massively prioritize making sure that he stays there for a long time. They need to invest in him, and they already are investing in him a lot. They will continue to, I think. Yeah. But he's also the kind of guy who's going to get massive interest everywhere. Like, he's so young. But same with a lot of these guys. You can say the same thing about MJF and other guys too. That but AEW is being really good to Kyle Fletcher right now. Hopefully the things keep going this way. He has incredible matches. He's only going to keep getting better. And he has that history with Ospreay where that's going to be, they've already had incredible matches with one another, but you can always go back to that and stuff, especially when they go back to Australia, when Ospreay's, when they do anything in the UK, when Ospreay's back, they do the two of them and stuff. It's going to be huge business. So yeah, good for Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe. I mean, Mark Briscoe having great matches every time also. It takes both those guys to have that ladder match. So, awesome stuff.
All right, we're going to do other, because I want to. Or sorry, we're gonna do indies because I want to end with the Carano and Ronda stuff.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
The Sandman is going to have his retirement match against the Invisible Man. What did you think when you saw this, Jensen?
Big pop.
Fair.
So that's pretty much the spotlight. There's not a whole lot to really go into on this. Sandman, he's stayed active enough to where I think he's had at least one match every year for, his whole career for the most part. I don't know if he maybe has missed a little bit of time here or there, but he always seems to pop up at some point or another somewhere for all these years. Even when he was at his worst physically, there were some years where he really ballooned up and was super out of shape, and you never really saw him, and he just randomly pop up on some show, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, hitting people with the kendo stick, and it's like, damn, the Sandman's still the Sandman to some degree, you know. So he's still.
I mean, he was
doing his thing.
at Sabu's last match doing that.
Oh no, I'm talking years ago. Yes, like in current day, yeah, he's showed up in GCW, at least like a couple times a year for the last few years,
right?
And he does exactly what I just described there too. He comes out and his entrance takes forever. Like the match you're referring to, he came out and in the middle of the match, and his entrance probably took 15 minutes, and then he gets in the ring and he swings the kendo sticks and Singapore Canes, whatever you want to call him, and that's the Sandman. But one of my favorite Sandman memories, I'm talking about him like he's dead, but one of my favorite Sandman memories is actually I went to an NXT show, and this had to have been like 2000, and the champion was probably maybe Balor at the time, but I that's how long ago it was, just for reference. But I remember going to an NXT show, and my brother didn't have a wrestling shirt to wear, and I gave him my Sandman shirt. I was like, just wear this. Like, no one at the show is going to have this shirt. Like, this is like a different type of crowd. No one will have this. The first person we saw at the venue was wearing the same exact Sandman shirt my brother was wearing. I was like, that's the funniest thing. And then also at WrestleMania 27 in the parking garage, I let him wear the same Sandman shirt, and some random fan called him out and was like, dude, that shirt rules. And my brother was like, hell yeah. So like he always just like became a Sandman shirt Sandman fan because of the shirt. But and then I showed him some old entrances of the Sandmans, like some old ECW entrances. And yeah, he was the man back then for sure. But anyways, him versus the Invisible Man, that's the retirement match. Only in Game Changer Wrestling will you see things like that happen. And I applaud Brett Lauderdale and the team for doing it. I'd imagine,
I'm giving
obviously Sandman was on board.
Well,
sure. To be fair, yes, Joey Janela does deserve, I'm sure, a lot of this credit. Yes, I don't want to take any credit. It was actually probably Janela's idea, to be fair.
I actually think it was Sandman's idea, because there's a clip from his podcast, like maybe even a year ago, where Janela's on the podcast and they're talking about Invisible Man, and Sandman is like, "Oh, I'd work him. Like, we would have a great match." And like, it sounds like Sandman's like actually been a fan of Invisible Man. I mean, how could you not be? And so that might have actually kickstarted everything. So I think this maybe was more of Sandman's idea than anybody.
Well, it's going to really also matter who the referee is. That's a big part of.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they could get Bryce for this.
Yeah,
considering he was the guy in the stand versus the man match. So it would be nice if they could get Bryce. I don't know you'd think AEW would let Bryce work this referee gig. I don't know why that would be an issue.
I think they would. I don't know if they'll let him do it or not. I mean, obviously GCW has booked. Jesus, I'm going to say they booked Invisible Man a bunch of times since Bryce left. They have booked Invisible Man many times since Bryce left. But obviously there's that aspect to it. Invisible Man, there's not even anything there outside of the Invisible Man. But like Yoshihiko, for instance, like at least there's like an object, it's like a different type of story you can tell, so it's important. Anyway, yeah, we'll see how Sandman does. And we'll see if Sandman, do you think Sandman, does the honors, the tradition, and goes out with his toes to the sky?
I kind of think Sandman loses, honestly. I don't think he cares that much. Like, I just kind of think he loses, and he's fine with that.
For as long as the check clears, he doesn't care.
Yeah. The other indie spotlight is the JCW J Cup, which was won by Charles Mason. He defeated Billy Starks in the finals and won the JCW Championship as well by defeating Billy.
Yes, this is a long time coming for Charles Mason. They have been building to him being the JCW champion for what feels like around at least like the last year straight, pretty much. And him and Billy have had a thing against each other for a while now too. And when Masha went away and they took the JCW title off of her, they needed a new champion. All signs were pointing towards Charles Mason being that champion, and they went with Billy to build to this moment of Charles finally winning the J Cup and winning the championship. Only thing I don't like about this, but it does fit his character, is I don't like when there's this isn't just a JCW thing. This is a tournament thing of any kind. I don't like when people get buys in tournaments. It always irks me. And like if you're gonna have essentially in the tournament in the first round, Jordan Oliver and Alec Price wrestled to a time limit draw, and neither advanced. So Charles Mason didn't have to wrestle anybody that next round to advance. And at the very least, because they already have all these other safeguards where they have like a gauntlet or Rumble type match where that person gets into the tournament. It's like a 6-person or whatever match where that person gets into the tournament. Like you have other people. There was like another Rumble match or whatever they call it the next day also, which is for a future shot at the JCW World title. But anyway, there's all these ways you could easily just have somebody fill in so that Mason doesn't have a bye. But once again, character-wise, if anyone's going to get a bye in the tournament, Charles Mason makes the most sense when it comes to that. And I'm happy for him. I mean, Charles Mason has, and I mean this as like I mean this as a compliment, but he has the same issue that MJF has had to deal with most of his career. And I think people are kind of coming around on now a little bit more. But Charles Mason is so good as like a character that people don't realize how good he is in the ring. But he's a really, really damn good in-ring wrestler. Like similar to MJF. You know, MJF is fantastic in the ring. He just doesn't always go out there and do Fosbury flops and stuff, but he can if he wants to. Charles Mason is so well known for his character and his creepy gimmick and all that type of work and stuff, and what he does on the microphone. But when he goes out there and has to have like really, really good bell-to-bell matches, he's really, really damn good. And also, I'll also say, I've said this a bunch of times on the show, especially over the last year or so, I would put the JCW product right there as good, if not better, as the current GCW product. I think JCW is arguably the best independent promotion in the entire world right now. I think that they have consistently great shows and they're constantly featuring young up-and-coming talent. A lot of, crossover between the GCW and JCW talent rosters, of course. But I would highly recommend, if you're not paying attention to JCW, I really think you're missing out. So congratulations to Charles Mason. It was a matter of time before he finally got that title. So, I'm glad that he finally has it.
I'll never say a bad word about Charles Mason. I think he tried to threaten to kill me one time. So he will forever be the greatest wrestler alive, in my opinion.
There you go.
It was good to see Charles. I think I might have picked him to win it last year, and then he didn't. So, yeah, it's definitely been a year in the making for him. And getting off Billy makes some sense as well. Although I think Billy's just going to keep doing independent matches, but Charles is going to be doing more for sure. So, all right. Yeah, those both indie spotlights. All right, we can go to other.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Killer Kross is the new MLW World Heavyweight Champion. He won the Battle Riot. He entered first in the Battle Riot, and then he went the entire way through the 40-man roster to win it. Cruel entered the Battle Riot as the champion. But what did you make of Kross walking away with the championship?
So speaking of Cruel, just real quick, I should mention, I don't know if I'm sure you saw, but if anyone hadn't, Matt Tremont had a match with Cruel recently where Tremont had it sounds like he had an underlying injury, like going into the match that he'd been dealing with already, but he hit the top rope really weird. It looked like he was trying to kind of flip backwards over the top rope and just got kind of stop. It just got, you had to see it to understand, but it was like the closest thing I can relate it to is like when Sting took that buckle bomb from Seth Rollins and he just kind of fenced, he kind of locked up on the ground, and it was scary. And I know they got Tremont out of there, but I just wanted to let the fans know and let everyone know, you're obviously well wishes to Tremont as he recovers. I was legit when I saw that happening. I was legitimately scared, so I was really glad to hear that he was okay, and at the very least, it was a known injury. Unfortunately, he just made it a lot worse.
Yeah, fortunately, he was okay. I know Lauderdale tweeted that they got him to the hospital and he was doing better, but I saw that going around and it didn't look good. But I am glad that he is okay.
Yes, so that just reminded me because I was in a match against Cruel, and yes, Cruel was the MLW World Champion coming into Battle Riot. Really, really strange booking. The entire run of Cruel in MLW. I could do an entire podcast about just that for the next hour, which we will not do. But they had a lot of opportunities to put the title on him when it would have made a lot more sense, and then they finally did it. And then almost immediately had him just say he didn't want Contra's help anymore, even though Contra was the group that he was leading. He took the group over from Jacob Fatu, for people who don't know. And he was the leader of that group. They helped him win the championship, this whole strength in numbers thing. They had built that group for a long time. They accomplished the goal. He finally became the champion. And then just out of nowhere, he's cutting promos about, by the way, I'm not blaming Cruel for this. I like Cruel. We've had him on the show, but the character and the way that he was booked it was just very weird and just didn't really make sense. And then it only made sense from the standpoint that Contra basically cost Cruel the title in Battle Riot, but it didn't make any logical sense for Cruel to not want their help anymore when he just stopped wanting their help. It didn't make any logical sense. None of it made sense. So anyway, Cruel isn't the champion anymore. That was pretty short-lived considering how long it took for him to get the title, which is a little annoying to me. I'm also a little I'm not a huge fan of people winning 30 or 4, in this case 40 person matches from number one either. I think it's kind of played out, and it's incredible. I know pro wrestling is already unrealistic, but it's especially unrealistic to think because it's not just that. We see so many times it's the Iron Man of the Rumble match because they came in at number 1 or number 2 and they lasted all the way until the very end, and it's I don't need that in every single match like this. If Killer Kross would have been a random entrant number 8 or whatever and done the same thing, it would have been just as impressive to me. Actually, way less predictable. Because it also starts, if you're like me, you start to notice this also. You start paying attention and you're oh, this person has been in here this long and this long. Okay, they're going to probably be in here until the very end. Oh my gosh, they're probably actually going to win this entire thing, really. But that said, I'm happy for Killer Kross. He's not the one that booked this scenario for Cruel or for the Battle Riot. I like the Battle Riot concept a lot. I love the idea of a Royal Rumble style match with weapons and no disqualification, and you can pin and submit people and throw them over the top and all that. I love the concept. I look forward to the Battle Riot every year. I think most Battle Riots I think this Battle Riot was good. I think they're all good matches and they're entertaining. But as far as the actual World Championship being involved and Kross, I didn't love that, for the reasons that I mentioned. But I do think that Killer Kross, it's good. I'm happy for him, for the actual wrestler himself, considering the position he was in the WWE and, the swell of it, attention and everything from the fans when he left and kind of trying to find his footing and what's next, MLW, making him the champion right away. So just weird how they both rule. Very, very weird.
Yeah, now Kushida's in Contra, which I couldn't think of a more odder fit than Kushida being in the group.
I mean, that group's pretty much toast now. I mean, if Cruel's not there, and it's like you don't really have a leader that you can replace him with unless you went with like, Dijak or like Bishop Dyer. So I don't know, some other big dude. Like I don't know. Just doesn't.
I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what Kross does with the title because MLW is probably the biggest platform he can be on right now. I know he showed up at GCW right after, but it's not like he's regular wrestling at GCW. MLW especially coming back on Fusion with everything. Obviously, like he could go to TNA, maybe. I don't know if TNA has interest or anything in him, but MLW, at least right now, is the biggest platform he's kind of on. And can he build back up some momentum that he had kind of coming off of his WWE run?
Yeah, that's the question, because it doesn't seem like AEW is interested because he'd be there by now if they were. So
I don't think AEW ever had interest. I don't think that was ever a thing.
Neither do I. I'm just saying it's like confirmed now because it's been as long as it has. I still think there's a chance he winds up back in the WWE at some point, but MLW is, like you said, it's a good place. It's a good place to be. Like I said, I'm really more concerned about the whole Cruel booking situation because I was so invested in that for so long, and then it's just kind of, I don't know what his future in MLW looks like either, but he's one of the guys I've said forever that I don't. It's just a matter of time before AEW or WWE sees that guy's size and how he moves around and gives him an opportunity, unless there's something I don't know about, so.
All right, final topic of the night. The dream fight is official. Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, Netflix, going down in May. What were your initial thoughts when you first saw this fight, Jensen?
Like always, I was, had to verify from some. So I can't remember where I saw the graphic first, but it had to have been from a reputable source. It might have been, if it was from Hawani, I immediately was like, this is legit. But I know I saw it from a few different outlets. It was like Hawani had tweeted it, and then I think I saw maybe Jake Paul because it's his company is helping promote it, and Netflix themselves I think had like put social media posts out. And I was like, wow, this is. For one, the first reaction is, wow, okay, this is real. And the second one is, okay, so what exactly, how is this going to work? So I'm like, okay, so it's going to be on Netflix. So it's going to be similar to the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight and everything, I'd imagine. I think they're going to have a card for this, a full card, but I don't know who's going to be on it yet. But, similar to that other boxing card, you can find MMA fighters, with some sort of name value to fill out the undercard. So they'll put something together. But yeah, it's as far as this actual fight goes, I mean, this is like, how we talked about when Chuck Liddell fought Vanderlei Silva, and it was like, this fight happened just like a little too late, but it was a better late than never situation though. It was like they just barely missed the timing being perfect, but it still happened and the fight was still great. And it was like, but when that was over, you felt like better late than never. Like, I'm glad we got that before it was too late. I'm glad we got that. This is like Rousey versus Carano is a fight that nobody wanted to begin with. There's a lot of revisionist history on this because I don't know if people understand who lived through the era. The question was always who would win between Ronda Rousey and Cyborg. It wasn't ever Rousey because Cyborg beat Carano. She knocked her out. So it was like, well, Cyborg destroyed Carano, so Cyborg and Rousey, that's what we all want to see. Now, there have been times throughout, the last couple decades, I guess, at this point, where there has been some rumblings in the past of them doing Gina Carano versus Ronda Rousey. And I think that there was talks of them doing it in the UFC at one point, and they fell through for a couple different reasons, I think. But that was like 10 years ago. Of course, Ronda did what she did in the WWE, had that random Ring of Honor match also. But I think that, when you look at it on paper, especially, it's like Carano hasn't fought, I think, since 2009, I think I had seen, was when she got knocked out by Cyborg.
Yeah.
And Rousey hasn't fought since getting knocked out by Amanda Nunes, and I think that was 2015? 16. Okay, yeah, so sure, we're talking, a decade ago. So a decade for one of them and over 15 years for the other. So, this is a fight that I don't think this is going to wind up being good for like really anyone involved outside of, I think a lot of people will tune in on Netflix because a lot of casual people who already have Netflix are going to get hyped up about it because they don't really understand like how, like, this isn't just a matter of like women past their prime fighting one another. This is women who left the game when they were getting destroyed, left at the pretty much the right times a decade and 15 years ago. So they're like extra out of their prime now. So like, I don't expect the actual fight to be very good. And I think that one or both of them might really get hurt out there. Like, I'm actually kind of concerned. So yeah, this was pretty out of left field. I have more thoughts on it, but I want to get your reaction. I know you put the meme out there that did very well on social media. So that's,
I was in early. Funny. Yeah. I shortly after the fight was announced that I put that one up. So no one had a chance to make the joke before I did, fortunately. When I first saw it, I was like, I like you, I was like, is we sure? Is this legit type of thing? And then I saw Netflix put it out. So I was like, well, obviously Netflix. And Andres Hale of ESPN, I saw him put it out. And I was like, all right, well, this got to be pretty legit then. You mentioned the revisionist history stuff. And yeah, Cyborg and Rousey was kind of like the bigger fight, I think, for hardcore fans, for sure, because that looked like a more competitive fight. But let's be honest, like, Gina and Ronda are the two biggest female stars in MMA history. Like, I don't think there's any debating that. Like, Gina was a draw on CBS for Elite XC, and Ronda, obviously, a huge pay-per-view draw for UFC.
And Ronda's also the main reason why they even allowed women to start fighting in the UFC. So, I mean, 1,000,000%, you're right. They're the two main women pioneers in the history of the sport, for sure.
So I think there was interest. I think there was plenty of interest in the fight. Let's say it came together in 2011, because that's when, maybe 2012, 13, because 2013 is when Ronda went to the UFC. That's when they had the UFC. 2012 is when she kind of was rising in Strikeforce and everything. So let's say it came together in 2012. I think it would have been the biggest women's fight of all time. I mean, I think it's going to be the biggest women's fight of all time now. So I think there was plenty of interest in it then from a casual fan perspective, just like there's going to be plenty of interest in it now from a casual fan perspective. I mean, we love this like nostalgia shit, right? This is why Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul and Mike Tyson do the numbers that they do. Jake Paul, credit to him, he trains. He's been boxing for a while, but no one looks at him as like a serious boxer, and no one looked at Jake Paul and Mike Tyson as serious boxing match. They're like, what? Yet did like 100 million viewers or whatever it did. It did more than Canelo and Crawford, which is a legitimate boxing match between two of the greatest boxers. Like, so there's going to be more interest. I look at it this way, like, you know, there was supposed to be Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison. That would have been the biggest women's fight in terms of stature that you can do at this point. Rousey and Carano would smoke that in viewership, like destroy it in viewership, honestly. So there's going to be plenty of interest in that perspective. As far as the fight goes, it was a bad matchup for Gina Carano way back when because of Ronda's ground game and judo and everything. I don't think Gina can prevent Ronda from getting her down. And that, I'm talking like, let's say they're both in their prime here. Let's say they're both, let's say this fight did happen in 2011, 12, 13. It would have been very tough for Gina to stay on the feet. Obviously, Gina's a great striker, but I don't think she had the wrestling at all to prevent Ronda from just throwing her down. I mean, Cyborg like tried to throw Gina down, and Gina ended up on top both times, but Ronda's base when it comes to that's way better than Cyborg's. So I think it would have been tough then. But now you're talking, and Gina hasn't fought since 2009. Ronda hasn't fought since 2016. Ronda's had 2 kids since then. Gina apparently, like, I mean, Ronda mentioned that she wanted to do this fight because Gina looked unhealthy and out of shape. And I know she meant it as, like, I want to help her, like, what can I do to get her back in shape? Yeah. Not like, it is very funny of, like, I saw this person looking really out of shape and I thought, like, let me beat her ass.
What an easy fucking fight.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know what kind of shape Gina's gonna be in, and Ronda, it sounds like she still kind of keeps in good shape and has been training and stuff. I don't expect the fight to be competitive. I expect Ronda just to completely run through her, but I don't know, 5 million, 8 million, 50 million people are gonna tune in to watch this damn thing.
Yeah, honestly, what I'm more interested in when it comes to this entire scenario isn't so much the fight itself between Rousey and Carano. It's the concept of Netflix being involved in these one-off boxing and MMA events. Because what I haven't really heard people discussing, and I'm sure the discussions are probably out there, and if they aren't, they'll become more prevalent soon, I'm sure, but you know, I know the Ali Act has always been a big talking point in the world of MMA, and especially when it comes to Dana White and how Zuffa and, you know, WME and all them have done business and stuff. The Ali Act almost, like, depending on how the actual business side of this works with Jake Paul and his company and those promoters along with Netflix, you really could see the Ali Act actually, you know, in effect successfully in MMA for the first time, really, like, ever, if you think about it, because if we've never been in a time before where, you know, like, kind of in like the world of boxing, you know, you had HBO boxing and stuff, and obviously promotions have worked on major television and stuff like that, and on pay-per-view and stuff like that. But I don't think we've ever lived in a time where there's been so much money dedicated to stuff like how Netflix, for instance, and I know Paramount and others as well, but like Netflix has so much money and they're so dedicated to the idea of getting a bigger market share of live streaming audiences, because they're also doing this by they're signing like podcasts and stuff now more regularly to added to their content library and stuff. So they're putting unheard of amounts of money behind these live events. Obviously, Raw on Netflix and stuff is a big example of that too. But my point with all of this is, like, if Netflix is going to dedicate the money that they did to Tyson and Jake Paul, they're going to do the same type of thing with Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. and then go, well, we can just do this on a regular basis with MMA. We can do a monthly MMA Netflix card, or, you know, every couple months or whatever it is. And Netflix is actually big enough to where more fighters from a company like the UFC might just let their contracts start lapsing or whatever and get out of their deals whenever they can. And now you have an actual opportunity to just sign one fight contracts and fight on Netflix when, you know, when it's convenient for you to want to fight, and not be locked into these 3, 4, 5 fight deals and not be able to fight outside of the UFC if you're a top guy. You know, this is where someone like a Francis Ngannou or like John Jones or like some of these guys who may have these falling outs with the UFC or be out of contract with the UFC. Like this is going to be an avenue.
That was the name I was going to mention as to who should probably be in the co-main event if you can get him. If you can get, I don't know who he faces. I don't know the landscape outside of UFC, honestly. But Cyborg versus Ngannou. Just give us the first ever just freak show intergender MMA fight of all time. No, I'm kidding. I'm saying my point is I want to see Cyborg on the show too. So she came to mind because she has history with, you know, the women in the I don't think they're gonna go near her for a number of reasons. I would get Ngannou on this card if I could. Again, I don't know who he fights, but I don't know if they can. But if they can, that's who I would go after. But yeah, you're right. People might leave the UFC and be like, well, there's more opportunity here if they're gonna do stuff. I just don't know how many fights are actually feasible where you can do enough of this. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so many legends who are still kind of fighting, and I don't think there's a lot of the legends either are not fighting or weren't like big draws. No offense to Anderson Silva. I love Anderson Silva. He might be the greatest fighter of all time as far as just the way he styled on people. Anderson Silva wasn't a big draw in the UFC. I don't think you can put Anderson Silva against, he was supposed to do the rematch against Chris Weidman, I think. And I think that ended up falling through.
It was supposed to be a boxing match. Yeah, the trilogy fight was supposed to be boxing. They wound up doing Anderson Silva versus, was it Tyron Woodley instead? And I think Anderson beat him on the Jake Paul Tyson card, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. And so Anderson's not going to be like, you can do Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman 3 in MMA. Is that going to be a fight? Like, I think there's only so much room for nostalgia fights in MMA because the ship has sailed on a lot of them. Because in fairness to Ronda and Gina, even though like the ship has kind of sailed on this fight, considering where they were in the prime. Ronda's 39, Gina's 42. They're not like super old. You know what I mean? Like Anderson's got to be every bit of 50, and like let's say you bring in like Brock, he's got to be close to 50. Anderson Silva is 50, by the way. Like GSP's got to be close.
But I think the main one to keep an eye on is going to be Connor, because Connor's still like mid to late 30s. He's like our age, and he would. I've said it 1,000 times. I don't believe Conor McGregor is ever fighting again until I see him in the octagon. Like he needs to be in the octagon with a ring announcer saying the fight is about to start before I truly believe he's fighting again. But if anything's going to truly motivate him to get back in the octagon, it would be something like a humongous Netflix payday, especially if it was against somebody who was like super beatable. Like, because you can get, you could even do him versus Nate Diaz, 3, and like enough casual. It'd be enough interest that Netflix can market Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor again. But you can even be more egregious with it. You could do Conor McGregor versus, Luke Rockhold or something like that. Someone who's like way more even beatable than Nate would even be. Like, you can find opponents for Conor McGregor to beat up for Netflix to market. And same with someone like John Jones. Like John Jones and the UFC have had their issues for all these years maybe it finally gets to the point where Jones is like, I'm done with you guys. I'm just going to go fight over here then. I mean, I just, I think that's going to be something to really look out for, especially because you're already seeing it with the lower name guys who have any kind of name recognition. They're all still competing somewhere. They're all in bare knuckle or game bred fighting or some sort of offshoot company somewhere still.
Yeah,
Andre Arlovsky just become the bare knuckle heavyweight champion. I love Andre Arlovsky. It's actually super cool to see him. He beat Ben Rothwell for the championship. I used to watch both those guys. I used to watch Ben Rothwell in the team fighting league, whatever that was called. I forgot the name of it. Him and Roy Nelson were in like it was like a.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It wasn't. Was it IFL?
Yes. Yeah, it was. Yes, IFL. So yeah. Anyways. So I like that there's kind of like an avenue for these guys to continue their careers if they want to a degree, but at the same time, it's also there's a level of it to me that's kind of lame too when I'll just single somebody out here that probably doesn't deserve to be singled out, but I'm not a huge fan of his. Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith had not a great UFC career. He had an okay UFC career. I'd say it was average, maybe a little above average. He got a world title fight. He didn't win. He could have taken a DQ loss, Aljamain Sterling style, and didn't against John Jones. But nonetheless, Anthony Smith is somebody that I feel like was always very overrated. I'm just going to be honest. I thought he was very overrated in his career for the most part. And then he got a really rare opportunity to be a analyst and commentator for the UFC broadcasts. Like as a guy who most of their broadcast team, outside of Paul Felder, who I'm also not a fan of, most of the people on the broadcast teams are Dominic Cruz, one of the best lighterweight fighters ever. Daniel Cormier, multi-division heavyweight, light heavyweight champion. Michael Bisping, former middleweight champion. It's like all these guys with all these major accomplishments. Chris Weidman's on the panel. And then you have Anthony Smith. And it was always like one guy isn't like the others here. And the reason I'm singling him out is because the UFC treated him so well that they even gave him multiple retirement fights. In his last retirement fight, they ran the whole video package of like the leave the memories alone style video package about his career and gave him this big send off for a guy who accomplished very, very little in the UFC, but had really good standing in the company. His retirement lasted less than half a year. He is now signed to fight somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just sad. Like these guys just can't get out of it. So you basically pick your poison. If you're an MMA fighter, there's a few routes you can go. If you're in the UFC, you can deal with what it's like to have to deal with the UFC, but you're going to be in the biggest company in the world. You might make really good money and you get to be on pay-per-view and you're in the biggest company in the world. There's a lot of benefits to that. You could become the UFC champion, become the face of the UFC. That's pretty cool. That's what most people are probably striving for. But there's going to be this level that's going to happen more and more when you have these Netflix opportunities, or once you hit a level where like you become a UFC champion, you're going to start really weighing your options in deciding if you want to bail on the company or not. And it's just going to be really fascinating to see because you're going to have guys that I think can successfully do that, but you're also going to have guys like Luke Rockhold who won a UFC championship, then had a humongous decline and now keep fighting like on a regular basis and just get their asses kicked over and over and over again. And it's just sad. You become BJ Penn and lose like your last 10 fights in a row. You know what I mean? But to BJ Penn's credit, had he not lost those last 10 fights in a row and Netflix like wanted to market a fight, like it might actually work if you hadn't lost those 10 fights in a row. People might actually be interested to see what it looks like.
I think BJ Penn has other issues besides.
No, I'm saying strictly fighting. BJ Penn's a bad example because he has way more going on than fighting is the last of his worries probably with whatever's going on with him. So yes, I agree. But yeah, anyway, it's a fascinating time. That's actually my biggest takeaway from the whole Rousey Carano thing is, I think the fight itself is going to be probably a pretty lame fight, but a lot of people will tune in and I'm fascinated to see what other MMA fights Netflix tries to promote and what kind of trickled out of, because also like the PFL is like never got the traction. Bellator never had traction. Like it, no company has really stepped up and challenged the UFC in any way, really,
Bellator
in a very long time.
Yeah, Bellator had some traction early.
It's been a long time since then, though.
Yeah, it kind of fell off after that.
Well, because it became PFL, they all merged.
Yeah, it fell off before it became PFL. Like the early days of Bellator, they had Pitbull, Michael Chandler, and all these guys. That's where Jorge Masvidal kind of came up a little bit. I mean, Masvidal's been fighting for a while, but that's when people started paying more attention to Masvidal. So Bellator definitely had an impact early in their run, but lately everything's just merged, and nobody really has any type of TV deal or any. Remember Bellator at least had a TV deal. They were on Spike for a little bit, I think. Yeah, they
were on Spike.
So
they had good fighters, but they also had that convoluted tournament system, and it was harder to follow. But I mean, other companies have done what Netflix is kind of attempting, but Netflix just has the unheard of resources. Yeah. So because even Affliction, remember they did Fedor versus Arlovsky, and that was a big money fight, and that pay-per-view I think did really well. But they didn't have the backing like Netflix does, because by the time they tried to run their next show, Josh Barnett popped and the company folded. So, Netflix, they wouldn't have to worry about folding if something like that happened. But anyways, who do you think is going to win? Make your prediction. You got Rousey or Carano?
Ronda, easily.
Yeah, I'm taking Ronda as well by armbar.
Yeah, I don't think this was a competitive fight in their prime, and I definitely don't think it's a competitive fight now. I guess Ronda's fought more recently. Ronda again stayed in shape and training through her WWE career and everything. The only thing that I think Ronda has any disadvantage is having 2 kids. That I've never had a kid. My body has never gone through that, but by all accounts that fucks with your body a lot. So I don't know how that is going to mess with her. Gina hasn't had that, but again, Gina apparently wasn't in great shape when Ronda decided, let me beat her ass because she's not in great shape. So I just don't see, unless her body really is just messed up from having kids, I just don't see how Ronda loses this fight, honestly.
Well, and this, I feel bad even saying this out loud, but how do I say this without being a complete asshole? Well, it would be. Are
you sure you want to say this? Justin?
Yeah, no. Well, it'll be fascinating, and I don't mean this in. I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but it would be fascinating to see if Ronda lost, what that reaction would look like, because she does not handle losing well, and losing this fight would be I feel just a crash out of epic proportions. I don't know if we'd ever hear or see from her in the public ever again if she lost this fight.
It depends on how she kind of loses. I don't think people are gonna. I thought you were gonna say something far worse than that.
Oh no. Well, because I'm big on mental. I don't want to see somebody have to deal with the mental health of that. That's a shitty thing to have to lose in front of millions of people when everyone's talking trash about you. But Rousey is just specifically a sore loser. She handles loss worse than maybe anyone I've ever seen in a professional sport. So this is propping it up to where if you lose this, you're losing to a woman who hasn't fought in 15 years, who is, on paper a worse fighter, who, I mean, especially if she knocks her out, that's just, and you've burned your bridge in the WWE. You've talked mad shit since leaving there. I just feel Ronda just has a lot more to lose than Gina. Gina just kind of, I don't really know what Gina's up to. I know she was in The Mandalorian or whatever, but I feel like Gina's got really nothing to lose here, But I feel like Ronda's ego is kind of, that's what I'm actually really the most interested to see is like if she loses, what does that crash out look like? But yeah.
I'm hoping she's matured to where it doesn't happen. But I have no idea. I have no idea what that looks like. It depends on how she loses. If she gets knocked out again, like that's probably not the best look for her. If she loses, like if it's like a close decision and both women are just kind of like going through the motions, like I don't even know again how like competitive it's going to be, because by all accounts, Ronda has a lot of respect for Gina. This isn't like some heated rivalry where she wants to, oh man, this is so years in the making and we gotta, settle the score type of thing. Seems like just kind of two friends being like, you want to make a bunch of money together? Like, yeah, sure. So it could legitimately just be, hey, let's just kind of do a sparring contest for a round and we'll make it look competitive and then I'll take you down and get you in and just tap quickly to the arm bar and then hugs and handshakes afterwards. Like it could very much play out like that.
It's all just a giant work. Yeah. I mean, if they were able to prove ever what you just said, though, that would be incredibly illegal. But I do not put it beyond them to do some sort of version of that potentially. Because we've even seen that with some of these random like Floyd Mayweather exhibition type matchups where he just goes out there and basically in a lot of these matchups, there's not even a real winner. Like, it's in their contracts that like technically you can't even win.
There's that one Mayweather fight. I don't remember. He's fighting some kickboxer, but it's like a boxing match in Japan. And yeah, Mayweather's done. What is that? Who it was?
I think his name was Kenshin. Are you talking about the Asian guy that like it was like this big kickboxer that like everyone was all intrigued about like what happens when Floyd stylistically what's going to happen when he fights this undefeated, and they went out there and just didn't do anything the entire time.
No. There is one. I think he's had a couple where he just goes out there and just like it's an exhibition fight. They're not doing anything. Yeah. It's whatever. He had one fight where it was going to be the same thing. Like, hey, let's just go out here, pitter patter around type of thing. But the kickboxer like started to really get serious, and Logan Paul hit Floyd. I think hit Floyd with like a couple of shots where Floyd was like, all right, motherfucker. Like, well, and I think Floyd just knocked him out because like the dude I'm sure is great at kickboxing, but in a hand-to-hand combat, like Floyd's beating all these guys. So yeah, Floyd got hit with a couple of shots that I think he was like, we ain't supposed to be playing like that, but if you want to play like that, I can turn this up for you.
I think you're describing the Logan Paul fight. That's how Logan Paul fought Floyd Mayweather. He just went at him. Hands just dropped, just swinging as hard as he could over and over. And then Floyd was like, okay, I'm not going to get hit in the face by this guy anymore. Yeah, we'll see. My prediction is going to be Ronda Rousey for what it's worth also. But, yeah. Live on Netflix. I'll be tuning in. I'll have some sort of action on that, I'm sure. We'll see how the lines look. That's what I'll really be looking at is like how close. That's how we'll know if it's fixed or not. Everybody, we'll see how close they are to their numbers when it comes to certain metrics. See who the referee is, by the way. If we have, I've said the names of the people. I've said enough. There's a few referees that I just really don't trust, and if they're in the octagon with these two women, I'm gonna immediately call bullshit on anything that happens for the entire fight. But.
All right, Jensen. Anything else we need to get to?
No, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say before we leave?
Nope. Fight Talk, Twitter. If I'm ever on there, hit me up. Someone actually asked me the other day how I felt about the Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano fight, or if I was going to put money on it also. I think I forgot to respond. I was working and I liked the tweet. I just remembered I liked the tweet and I didn't respond to it. But if you're in the chat, yeah, I'll have money on that fight. Don't worry.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us tonight. Hope everyone has a good evening. I'll be back tomorrow. Myself and Joel Pearl. We're going to be joined by ROH Women's Pure Champion Deonna Purrazzo, and the unemployed Steve Macklin will be on the show with us tomorrow. So everyone, I'm going to offer Macklin a job because he needs work right now.
Yeah, I saw he was fired from TNA in the worst stipulation in the history. I've talked about that before. That is the worst idea for a match ever.
I asked Eric Young about that. I was like, why do you do this match? And he's like, well, I'm contractually obligated to compete in the match. I was like, all right. I mean, I guess if that's the case. But
well, I don't blame the wrestlers who are storyline wise essentially forced into the match like Eric Young is explaining. But from a company standpoint, why would you put anyone you value in a random draw to get fired?
It's a stupid match. I've talked about it as well.
It's all good, man. That's not the only time. I'm OG TNA. I mean, I remember that reverse battle royal where like you won by getting into the ring. Yeah. So penalty boxes and stuff, and the King of the Mountain and all that.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of that, I will be on the post show. I think we got a little while. I think it's the beginning of April before I'll be back on the main channel. But Joel's going to be covering. AEW's got a show like the same weekend that TNA's got their next pay-per-view, and I guess it's in Canada.
Oh yeah, the Vancouver. I forgot what AEW pay-per-view. Wrestle Dream's in Vancouver.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think Joel's going to be at that, so I think he's still going to make the post show with me and Cresta. But if not,
why? It's not Wrestle Dream's in October. What the hell? Revolution and then Dynasty. Dynasty's in
Dynasty.
April. Yeah, Dynasty.
Is it around April 11th or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's April 11th, April 12th, something like that.
Okay, because. Yeah. Anyway, that's You guys can catch me on the main channel for that. I'll be on the post show for the next TNA pay-per-view. So yeah,
all right, there you go. Jensen, appreciate you as always, everyone. Hope you have a good evening. Have a good night, everybody, and we will catch everyone next week. Bye, folks.